Hello and welcome to another video where I show you how to get 5 stars on all the challenges on Snooker 19. We're covering position on this one. First one is one-way trip, so all you got to do is get the white ball in the inner ring. So I play a little bit below centre and roughly about 80%, and it just bounces above the middle and gets in there. I've got a couple of screenshots for you. I think I take the wrong screenshot for one of them, but you get the idea. I actually did it at 80% there, but you know, roughly around there, just below centre, halfway between maximum bottom and middle, and then you get the 5 stars. So that is the first one-way trip done. The next one is back to black, so you just have to get the white in the ring, and for this one I play it roughly about 30%, and I don't put anything on the white ball. And you really do want to get the white ball as close to the middle as possible because it sets you up nicely for the next shot. This is the only one where I put a little bit of position on the ball. I put a little bit of top just to set it right, but I didn't change the power at all, and it just bounces off the cush and goes in nicely. You want to get below this red but not too far below it. And then for this one I think I just changed the power bar here, and I don't put any position on it, so 29%, just so it makes sure that it gets off that cushion enough to get in the circle. And then all you got to do is pot the black, and you don't have to worry about where the white goes. Just make sure the black goes in. Don't play it too hard, so you just give it every chance to go in if it rattles off the jaw, and then you are done. So back to black, 5 stars. Next one is base to base. So this one's pretty simple, pretty easy to do. You've just got to get the white ball in the circle where the object ball is, and the only tricky thing is that the circle decreases. So 8.3% is what I put on the first one, but as I said, yeah, the circle actually gets smaller in size, so the last one is just the trickiest one. You want to try and get sort of as straight as possible on each one. Length of the table is roughly about 17%, so I hit it a little bit harder, 17.7, just to make sure that it stays there. I actually think I hit that at 18% in the end, but there it is. And sometimes the object ball will just nudge it back into place. Now the circle's getting a lot smaller, so you can see the thickness of the power bar change when you hit the object ball. So what's nice about this one is, even though the white wants to roll forward, the object ball, if you're straight, will bounce off the cushion and sort of knock it back into place. So this is the only really tricky one where you don't really want to afford to sort of hit it too hard or too soft. You don't want to roll up to the ball so you just barely touch it. You want to make sure that you give the object ball a decent whack, 17.5%, but not too much that it bounces off the cush and hits the white ball. So there you go. I just about get the white in the marker, and that's that. 5 stars done. Next up we have return journey. So this is a tricky one. So you have to try and bring the cue ball back into the middle, pretty much where the white is now. So the way I do this is I put maximum bottom on the white ball. That way there's not a variation on like how much bottom. I'm not changing how much screw I put on the ball, and I hit it at 51%, or as close to 51% as I can. There you go, there's the maximum screw back, because if I put it halfway, it might be different every time. So if I keep the screw back the same every time, 51%, and it brings it roughly back into the middle. With that one I actually hit it at 51.7%, so I didn't quite get 51%, but as you can see, it brought it back to where we wanted it, and that's pretty much what you have to do 4 times. So the tricky part is hitting the 51% 4 times in a row. Everything else is pretty simple, so it is a lot of trial and error, this one. And I think with this shot I don't get it bang on. I think I hit it a little bit too soft or hard. Looks like I hit it too soft. So straight away I'm off center here, which means I have to kind of change up what I do. So normally when you take a shot, you aim for the heart of the pocket, so that's where the arrow's pointing now. And if I potted this blue in the heart of the pocket, the white would come back a lot wider. It would screw back at a wider angle. So what I need to do is I actually need to hit sort of the pinch the pocket, hit the knuckle of the pocket, and that straightens the cue ball line as it screws back. So you can actually pot a lot more than what you think on a pocket. So you can pinch pockets and pot it in certain like sections of the pocket, which people don't think about. So I'm playing it at 51% again. I probably should have hit it a little bit harder, but it turns out it works okay. And I end up pretty straight. So this is, if you can get straight on this ball, then you're okay. You can see that the ring actually gets smaller. So the white ball's on the outer ring. So you've got to change the pace, because usually the cue ball's in the middle, but now it's on the outer ring. So that means I have to hit it slightly less power. I think I settle with 50%, but as you'll see in a second, that's very, very close to not making it. So I should have knocked it down to 48, 49, but I just wanted to make sure of it, and I get it to 50%, and the circle's so small now, but I just about stay in there. So if you ever find yourself in the outer ring, maybe 49% will do it. And there you go. That's pretty much Return Journey. A tricky one, but it is doable after a few tries. So now we go to, I would say, probably one of the hardest challenges of the whole lot, including the advanced ones as well. Around the Clock is so difficult that it almost made me give up making this video and these series of videos, because it's just so difficult. So let's have a look at what you've got to do. You've got to pot each of the colours in the kind of pockets that they're pointing at, as it were. So it looks easier than it is, but it isn't. And what I've included here are, I mean, it probably took me about 4 or 5 hours of gameplay to do this, and I think I gave up for about a week, and I've sped it all up here so you can see how many failed attempts I do this in. And you know, I'll kind of go into sort of how I do it and some advice of what I would say to people trying to do this one. But I think I just want to reiterate that this one is really, really difficult, and it's all about getting the cue ball in the middle of the circle, but you never quite do it, so you have to kind of learn how to deal with that. So this is, I think this is an attempt where I actually get close, and I got close probably about, in 4 or 5 hours of gameplay, 6 or 7 times, so not very often. So here, look, I've got the black, but I've got a really, really tough angle to get back into the circle. I don't think I even pot it. I was kind of on the right lines, but I just want to just talk about how difficult this one is, because this one is really, really tough. So let's get into it. So Around the Clock, I think I'll show you a few different attempts of me failing, but eventually I'll show you the one where I do it. So I put maximum bottom on the ball just to make sure that the screw back that I put on the ball is consistent, so it's the same every time. So I always put maximum screw, and then I roughly put it to, I actually try and put it to exactly 24%. Even if you're aiming for 24, what I actually hit there is 24.7. So you can see it actually goes back a little bit further. So those 0.7s and 0.5s all make a big difference. You can see here that I've kind of overscrewed it, so I've gone a little bit further than the center, and even though it's a tiny bit, I'm just going to flick the arrow back and forth here. That makes a massive difference in how you bring the cue ball back, because now you have to adjust the power accordingly. I think I still sort of aim it for 24, but knowing that I'm going to hit it slightly under power, because now I want to bring the cue ball, it's going to come back about here. So it's, once you go out of the center once, it's very hard to get the cue ball back into the center again. So I hit it just slightly harder than 24.4, but I think I hit it too hard, and then I start to know that was way too far to go for the brown, so I restart the thing. So it's just incredibly difficult to get this one right, and you'll just have to kind of get used to it. So when you overscrew it, you've got to hit it a bit harder. When you underscrew it, you've got to hit it a bit softer, and it really is, you start to get a sense of like how the cue ball is. See, I've overscrewed it here where I'm attempting it, because it's not too bad. There's the middle, so that's where I wanted it to be. but it's way further out, so I can't screw it there. So if I screw it back, it's going to come back around about here. So if you aim for about 27%, it usually will be okay, but it will bring it back further than the center. It'll be in the outer ring. So I start with 24, and then I think I move it up to 27. But I think I ended up hitting this one around about 28. Yeah, 28. So if I hit it 27, I probably would have been all right. But I hit it too hard, and as you can see, look, it just comes back too much. And now, you know, ideally you want to be straight on this blue, and even if you're this far away, you've got to hit it about 28-29% to bring it back into the middle. But I'm just off center, so I've got to play just a wild shot to get out. So I do manage to do that, put a lot of the left hand side and hit it plenty hard enough, and it does go back into the circle. So there is a recovery shot that you can do to get in and out. It's not impossible, and it just usually requires side. And so now I'm back straight on this pink, but I'm not in the center here, so like again I'm a little bit further away, so I need to hit it harder than 24. So 24 is kind of the guideline. If it's in the middle, it's got to be 24. If the cue ball is further away, it's got to be harder than 24. If it's closer, it's got to be less than 24. But it's not easy, so I'm going for 24.9. I think I managed to underhit it by quite a bit, and I wussed out. So I kind of should have hit it a lot harder. I should have aimed for like 25, 26, and it would have brought it back. So here's another failed attempt at the black, and at this point you might as well go for it, because you never know, you might look out. But I'm pretty much guessing at this point. And of course, try and pot the black as much as you can. And I think this is just another example of underhitting it. So how often? So I underhit it 23.5, and it's just a 0.5 of percentage, and I managed to underhit it, and I don't even bother. I just kind of restart it. So this is the one where I actually do it, and it's all sort of textbook apart from one shot. So I screw it back a little bit further than I needed to. So now I just need to overhit it a tad than 24%. Maximum screw. And I kind of underhit it a little bit. So in this position, it's tricky because now I've underhit it. So now I have to hit it less than 24%, because I wanted the cue ball to come back about here, but I didn't. That would have been straight, but instead it's landed here. So if I screw it back like with 24%, it's going to land about there. So I have to really just underhit it about 22%. And I think I should have done it 23. That would have got me straight, but I hit it 22. And I'm just slightly above, so that leaves me a tricky shot. And at this point I kind of almost gave up. I figured I might as well go for it, because that's where I want the cue ball to be. And that would mean that I can screw back to there about 24%. If the cue ball was there where it's pointing now, I'd have to like put about 28%, 29% with maximum screw back. But because I'm above the blue, I'm very close to the blue, I'm going to play a shot that I've been playing a few times, but I've probably attempted this about 4 or 5 times and never pulled it off, and I managed to do it. So a tad bit of side, not too much. Obviously it depends where the cue ball is. Roughly about 46%, depending again how far away the cue ball is from the blue. And if you just do that, it will bounce off the bottom cush and come between the black and the pink quite nice. So you don't need a lot of side to do this. And it just so happened, as I said, I've done that shot, attempted that shot many times and never really did it. I probably attempted it about 6-7 times, never really did it, but I managed to do it this time, and I came perfect on the pink, pretty much. A slight angle to it. So I am a little bit further away from the middle here, as you can see. So I'm just aiming above 25, and I actually hit it 27. So my prediction of 25 was probably a little bit too light. So I hit it at 27%, and that brings me bang on. And I have never, out of like 4 or 5 hours of doing this, I have never had such a straight shot on the black. So my heart is absolutely pounding. The white's pretty close to the middle, so I figured 24 was probably enough. And it even goes in the middle there. So yeah, it's just a really tricky one. So you just want to make sure that you mentally prepare yourself to be doing this one for a while. The key shots are from brown to blue. If you nail the brown to blue, and then the pink to the black, if you can just get your head around those 2 shots, then you're okay. But obviously you've got to get there. So here is an attempt where I did fail this one, but I just wanted to show you. So I've overscrewed it on the green, so I have to play a wider shot. So I hit it about 25%. I think I overhit it slightly, but I'm on the outer ring of the blue. And the reason why I wanted to show you this, because this is a shot that I got quite often, and I thought I would actually do it on this kind of run. But I'm dead straight on the blue, and I'm in the outer ring. Now, usually I'm in the sort of inner ring, so I played it 27, but what I did is I actually hit it at 30. So if you're in the outer ring, 30% is about right, 28 in the middle ring, but I screw it back enough, and I actually get it. So that if you're dead straight on the blue, remember, like if you're in the outer ring 30, middle ring about 28, 29, and then the inner one 27. So it all depends how far away you are from the blue. But I get the pink, and here I'm getting excited because I'm like, oh god, I've got another black shot, but I'm not straight on it. So just another example of how many times I get onto this black but just don't get straight. So I kind of take a guess, and I had the right line there. I was kind of in the right ballpark, but there you go. But anyway, I did do it. It took me a long time, so I'll have a lot of patience with this one because it's tough. So let's have a look at the rewards. So we get the Halo Q, which looks okay. It's not my favorite one, but the next one is quite nice. I think I'm in shock here, so that's why it takes me a while to swap the queue. But the next one is the smoke, quite a nice looking queue. So I could make a video about the around the clock challenge because it's so difficult on its own. But I hope you found this video useful. Please, if you have found it useful, just give it a like and subscribe. This YouTube channel is all about snooker video games, and also might be sort of going into pool as well. I play Snooker 19 fairly regular. I even do live streams where you can play me, so make sure you check it out. And thanks for watching. Cheers.